Hello everybody and welcome back. I've left you hanging long enough with just a couple of weeks before the 2022 season begins. I thought I better let you know my Constructors Championship predictions. I've left it until after testing. Obviously we've still got one more testing next weekend, but I feel like the time is now and I'd love to know yours in the comments down below as well. Starting off with Haas, I've got in 10th place. And to be honest with you, I wanted to put them higher. I think they will have a better season than last season. I don't think they're going to be incredibly slow like we saw them last year, but I do think that they're still going to struggle, especially after all that has happened in the last couple of weeks with them. Yes, they have increased help with Ferrari, and this is the first time that we're going to see them with their own aero package, thanks to Ferrari having to actually get rid of some of the staff due to budget cuts. But losing their title sponsor and a driver this close to the beginning of the season, lots of behind the scenes are going to be changing at Haas as well. It's going to be very, very tricky for them, and that's why I've got them in 10th place. Williams, I've popped into 9th place. Now, I think the car will be better. I don't think the drivers are better, though. I think Albon is a little bit of a downgrade on George Russell, in my opinion. I still think he's done to do incredibly well, but I think it's going to take him a little bit of time to settle back into Formula 1. And Latifi is going to be Latifi. I think Latifi will pick up points like he did last season, but we won't see anything incredible from him or a little bit groundbreaking. But, you know, 2022 is the start of a brand new journey for Williams. They've had a lot of change in the last few years, and with these new regulations, it gives them a real opportunity to bed into Formula 1 again and start to grow from the bottom. Alfa Romeo, I've got in 8th place, and genuinely, I think Bottas is a big factor here. I think the new influx of money that comes with Zhou is great for them too, but just having a driver like Bottas, I know they had Kimi Räikkönen, but Kimi Räikkönen very much felt like he was coming towards the end of his career, whereas Valtteri Bottas, I think, has still got enough in him and still got enough drive in him that he'll want to pick up points. He'll want to show some of those doubters wrong, including myself, and will incredibly do well there at Alfa Romeo. Aston Martin, I've got in 7th place, and I was really struggling to deviate between these teams. I love what Aston Martin are doing. I think they're doing Formula 1 correctly. Like, they've come in, taken over Force India, then was Racing Point, and they started to build something really incredible behind the scenes at Alfa Romeo. The factory is set to be finished in 2023, though, and they're set to have their own engine possibly by the end of 2026. So it's, you know, setting the wheels in motion for Aston Martin. I think they are going to get better and better and better over the next coming seasons, but I don't think 2022 is going to be the year that they massively take a step forward. I think it's going to be a very slow building process for Aston Martin. In a similar vein to what I've said about Aston Martin, I kind of think similar to Alpine. I think it's going to take them a little while longer to properly sort out their behind the scenes, because there's been so much change behind the scenes. Obviously, we've got Otmar coming in from Aston Martin. I think that's going to have a bit of a detrimental effect on Aston Martin and maybe help Alpine a little bit, obviously with the BWT money coming in as well for them. But lots of change behind the scenes, and a driver lineup that is going to change considerably, I'd imagine, in the next couple of years or so. I know Ocon has got that fairly decently long contract with Alpine, but I can't see him being there and being like their, you know, future title contender. And Alonso, it just depends how much Alonso has really got left in him. He had an incredible season last year, and I really enjoyed the Alpine story throughout the season, but can he do it again? We'll have to wait and see. Like, never doubt Alonso, but at the same time, it's got to end at some point. In the same way we saw Kimi Räikkönen sort of drift off towards the end of his career, maybe we'll see the same with Alonso. And Piastri, obviously, coming in is not a downgrade in any way whatsoever. Piastri's just won back-to-back-to-back titles, but, you know, it's going to take him a little bit of time to get used to Formula 1 as well, and he's definitely one to watch for the future. And that's why I've put ALPHATAURI in at 5th place, because I think they've kind of got their lineup set up. And for me, it's all about Yuki Tsunoda this year. Yuki Tsunoda had a very 50-50 year last year. It had ups, it had downs. And Pierre Gasly was fairly consistent throughout the entire season. And they still managed to be very, very close to Alpine by the end of the year for 5th place. I think if Yuki Tsunoda would just had like 3 or 4 more races where he'd have turned up and properly got some points, then ALPHATAURI would have easily been 5th place, especially because Gasly was just absolutely on fire. I know that the car has changed. I know that Pierre Gasly might, you know, have to get used to the new 2022 cars as well. But with Pierre Gasly, with Yuki Tsunoda, I really love that team dynamic that they've got. I think Yuki Tsunoda will step up, and I'm well aboard the Yuki Tsunoda hype train. I think 5th place is well within their grasp this year if they can just get those little mistakes correct this season. Because another thing that happened with ALPHATAURI is a lot of the time, the team got the strategy wrong. Like, they put Pierre Gasly on some weird tyres and some weird strategies throughout the season and lost a lot of points because of it. If they'd have just continued on and maybe instead of, trying to gamble for more points and just accepting the points that they could have got, they'd have probably got 5th place fairly easily last year too. I put McLaren in 4th place. I really wanted to put McLaren higher as a McLaren fan. Obviously, I think, again, they're on a journey now. We've seen the dip from McLaren in the middle of that previous era. It was just atrocious, wasn't it? We were struggling for points at times, and it just looked like the team was going to spiral into nothingness. But now we've sort of had that Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris season where it was a proper tick up, and some really, really good driving came from that. Then we brought in Daniel Ricciardo, and I really hyped up Daniel Ricciardo before the beginning of last year. Maybe to my detriment, because then he didn't have the best season overall. But I still think last year showed a progression for the team. And I think that progression will continue in a similar vein to Aston Martin. But they're slightly further ahead, I'd say, just because of the pedigree that they have in Formula 1. They're going to continue to build, and they're going to get closer and closer to that top team. And Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, I do really like to see. I think Daniel Ricciardo will have a better year than he did last year, but maybe him and Lando Norris will be a little bit closer. I think Lando Norris is still going to be the better of the two drivers, although Lando Norris had a couple of seasons in a row now where he started off incredibly well and just come out of the blocks just unbelievably quick and then kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. Now, I know last year that was because of a little bit of unlucky driving, and obviously he had punctures and problems that you wouldn't expect him to have, but it still tailed off in the same vein as it did in 2020 as well. Now we get into the top 3, and I've popped Red Bull in 3rd place. Now, the only reason I've popped them down a place from last year, a couple of places in the driver's standings from last year, is because their new engine situation, I still need to see what's going to happen there. I know that it's technically still Honda, but it's changed up a lot, and they've put a lot of work and a lot of time into that changing. Also, the fact that, this driver pairing, I'm just not 100% happy with. I know that Sergio Perez is a stalwart of Formula 1, has more than, deserved that seat in a top team, but the fact that there's the dynamic there that, Sergio Perez starts the season well, will they still be like, no, we're a Max team all the way? And Max has obviously signed a new deal up until 2028, so they clearly have a lot of passion for wanting to keep Max into the team, and Max clearly has faith in the team and in the facilities behind the team that they're going to deliver him a car that is going to win championships, because you don't win your first world championship and then just give up on the dream of being a Formula 1 champion again. So it's going to be a weird one for Red Bull. I think they're going to have a topsy-turvy season. I think, if anything, it's going to be a real battle between them and McLaren for 3rd place, and I think those two won't really get anywhere near these top 2. And obviously we've only got 2 left. In 2nd place, I've put Ferrari. I think Ferrari have the best driver pairing. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz is incredible. The balance between them we saw last year was just untouchable at times, and they both cover each other's mistakes in incredible fashion. When Leclerc missed out on points, missed out on opportunities, it was Carlos Sainz that was picking up podiums. And the team that they've got there is just sensational. And always Ferrari seem to have an uptick when there's new regulations. I think back to 2015, they had a little bit of an uptick after the 2014 regulation changes. And then obviously we had the 2 Sebastian Vettel seasons where Ferrari looked like they could go on to beat Mercedes and win a Drivers' Championship. Didn't quite happen for them after those aero changes in 2017. So they usually do have an uptick when new regulations happen, and I'm expecting that again. And I think they have the drivers to do it. But there's just that little inkling in my mind that it is still Ferrari. Do they have that ability to be number 1? Yes, no, maybe, I'm not so sure. Because I've put Mercedes in at number 1 still. Obviously, still Constructors champions 8 times in a row now. I'm saying that it's going to be 1 more still. And with George Russell coming in, I think that is an upgrade on Valtteri Bottas, in my opinion. I love George Russell and what he did at Williams, and I think he will carry that form forward into the Mercedes team. And then it's Lewis Hamilton. What more can you say about Lewis Hamilton? He is one of the best drivers we have ever seen on the grid. He will be incredibly incensed by what happened to him at the end of last season. You know, I think he's taken that little bit of time out. He has come back now with a new fire. And I think if he'd have won that 8th championship, we maybe could be looking at another team here. But with Lewis Hamilton back in, trying to win an 8th championship again, and being so close at the end of last year, I think it's just going to turn him on to a whole new level. And I don't even know what that looks like, because Lewis Hamilton has found it easy at times over the last 5 or 6 seasons to win those championships. And the team as well will want to show that they can just keep on going. New regulations, but the same engine behind them. And I think that's the main thing for me at Mercedes. Yes, the regulations, yes, the aeros are changing, but the underneath of what we are seeing in these Formula One cars is not changing too much until a couple of years' time from now. So Mercedes still have the best engine, in my opinion, and I think they'll still have the best package overall. But that's just my thoughts on the Constructors' Championship. Here is my Constructors' standings for the year, just to run again. Haas, obviously, we don't know who's going to be alongside Mick Schumacher yet, so they're in at 10th place. Williams in 9th place. Alfa Romeo 8th. Aston and Martin, I think, will take a couple more years to get there, but I'm slotting them in 7th place. Alpine in 6th. ALPHATAURI, as long as those mistakes kind of dwindle a little bit and Yuki Tsunoda can properly step up to the hype that I have for him. McLaren in 4th place, as much as I'd love to put them higher. Red Bull, again, in 3rd, but possibly have that ability to be in and amongst it. And I think Max Verstappen will still be fighting for championships, even if the car is only the 3rd fastest on the grid. Ferrari in 2nd place, because Mercedes are Mercedes, and they just keep coming back, and they seem to always win. But that's my 10. I'd love to know your 10 in the comments down below. Whilst you're there, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you next time.